I used to think my whey ricotta recipe was great until I stumbled on a couple simple tweaks that have taken it to a whole new level. So I'm going to show you how to turn leftover whey into a ricotta that is extra super delicious. And I'm going to tackle the most common ricotta making questions so that you can easily do it yourself too. I am using a whey from a cheese that I made this morning. It's the same cheese that we make in the workshop that I teach, and it is excellent for making ricotta. So if you want to know more about that, the link's below. If you have ever tried making a whey ricotta before and ended up with nothing, then listen up. The number one reason that people do not get ricotta is because they are using the wrong kind of whey. There are actually two kinds of whey: acid whey and sweet whey. Acid whey is what you get from making quick, fresh cheeses like paneer, quick mozzarella, or yogurt cheese. And sweet whey comes from cultured rennet-based cheeses such as Alpine-style wheels, Goudas, cheddars, Colbys. But here's the sneaky thing. Both kinds of whey look identical, but only one makes ricotta. So before you start, you have to ask, was the milk coagulated with acid? If you used vinegar, citric acid, or lemon juice, then that whey will not work. But if the milk was cultured and then set with rennet, that whey is full of leftover proteins, and that is your ricotta goldmine. Now, because so many people struggle with this, here's a little pop quiz to cement this concept. Number one, can yogurt whey be used to make ricotta? Well, did you use rennet to set the curd? If the answer is no, and it should be no because you're making ricotta, then no. What about whey from quick mozzarella? If you used an acid, then no. What about cheddar? Cheddar, like almost all aged cheeses, requires culture and a rennet. So the answer would be yes. What about Gouda? Yes. What about queso fresco? Yes. What about paneer? Paneer uses lemon juice, so no. Now the type of whey is important. But what about the type of milk that you use to make the cheese in the first place? All kinds of milk can be used, but they do handle differently. If you made a cheese from pasteurized milk, you should be able to make ricotta just fine as long as you added calcium chloride to the milk. Goat milk works, but you'll get less ricotta and the curd is more fragile. Now, many home cheesemakers like to make cheese in small batches. So I often get the question, is it okay if I stockpile my whey so that I can make one big batch of ricotta at one time? The short answer is yes, maybe. From what I've read, ricotta can be made from whey that is frozen, though the yield will be probably a little bit lower. But refrigerated whey is not recommended because as it ages in the fridge, the acidity rises, the proteins change, and there just ends up being less good stuff to form the curd. So hands down, the best way to use is whey that is so fresh it is still warm. And that brings me to one more consideration. How much whey do you need to make ricotta? Well, you can use any amount that you have, but keep in mind that it takes 2 to 3 gallons of whey to get 1 pound of ricotta, more or less. So when I make ricotta, I usually use 5 gallons of whey left over from making an 8-gallon cheese to make it worth my while. All right, so you've got sweet whey and it's fresh and you've got a lot of it. So now let's make the ricotta. Turn the burner on high and stick a thermometer in it. The target temp is about 200 degrees, but here's the cool thing. We're not just making ricotta, we're making better ricotta. And that comes down to 2 simple tweaks. But first, we have to get the whey to about 180 degrees. You can see how much foam is starting to form. So these are the ricotta curds that are going to thicken up as this continues to heat. This right here is super sweet, super milky and creamy, almost like an ice cream base. So right around this mark, you see the curds are starting to form. There's some stuff there. You want to add a couple fistfuls of salt to firm the curd, improve flavor, and extend the shelf life. I know it feels like a lot of salt, but this is a huge quantity of liquid, and most of the salt will remain behind in the whey, so do not be shy. For the second tweak, we add a little fresh milk to reintroduce some fresh proteins and fat, which will create richer curds and more of them. Just don't overdo it because too much milk changes the texture. So aim for 5% of the total liquid, maybe 10 for 5 gallons of whey. That would be about 4 cups of milk, but I often do even less. So see how it looks like a foam right here? It's not really curds, it's just that foam. Now it tastes saltier and tangier. Oh look, there's curds already coming. Now it's time to add the vinegar. Because it's at least 180 and there's a cap of curds forming, it's time, but I'm gonna wait another couple minutes just to make it even hotter so it even forms a better curd. Look, you can see bubbles coming up, so it is time to go off. And now Here's the vinegar. I don't measure this, but I dump in about a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 cup. So you put the spoon down below the cap of curds and dump in some vinegar. Now pull aside the cap. If you did it right, you should see a flurry of curds rushing to the surface like an upside down snowstorm. Flap on a lid and let it just rest for 15 minutes so they firm up. All right, now it's time to scoop the curds out into the ricotta baskets, or you can also use a cheesecloth lined colander. The curds will settle as they drain in the basket, so you want to pile them up as high as possible. There is more curd in here, but it just kind of flows through, so you don't really catch it. You could put it through a cheesecloth if you want to, but it's just not worth my time. I already got plenty of ricotta. Do you see the stuff at the bottom? Do you see that close? So that is stuff that you could save and filter through if you wanted to, and you would probably get about a 1/2 cup more of ricotta, but I don't care. Do not be aghast. Now, after you make ricotta, you still have whey left. So what do you do with this? This is a salted whey, and it is more acidic than normal thanks to the added vinegar. But you can still use it in place of water in many baking recipes or as a base for soup. It's also good for watering plants, and chickens and pigs love it. That's what I do with mine. I feed it to the pigs. Just remember, this is a spent whey. It cannot be used for making more cheese. Even though it looks like it's still milky and has a bunch in it, it doesn't. Let the curds rest at room temperature until they've cooled, and then transfer them to the fridge to set up overnight. Now I'm going to weigh them because you always want to know how much ricotta you got. You can see how much this has sunk down. It was really full before, and there's a little bit more whey that came off overnight. 1 pound, 1 ounce, and then now it's 12.8, so another 12 ounces. I'm gonna be completely honest because I'm committed to being honest. This is not as much ricotta as I thought I was gonna get. I have made other ricottas that yield so much more ricotta, and this is plenty of ricotta. It is a good yield. It is close to 2 pounds. 9 pounds, 7.6 ounces. But I was thinking I was gonna get more like 2.5 pounds. So if I had strained off that bit of stuff that was at the very bottom of the kettle before I dumped it, I probably would have gotten another 1/4 to 1/2 pound. I'm not caring about that, but I did want to kind of impress you with how much you can get, and I think I kind of failed. Anyway, I'm just saying this so that you know that sometimes it's just not as much as you think you're going to get, and that's just what it is, and you just kind of be like, okay, well, I got plenty, but, move on. But what if you don't get any ricotta from your sweet whey? Well, there's 2 things you can do. First, crank up the heat even more and see if that helps. And second, try adding a little more acid. And if that doesn't work, don't worry about it. It could be that the type of cheese you made just doesn't yield a whey that's great for ricotta. Here's the thing, as you experiment making ricotta with whey from different kinds of cheeses, you'll discover which ones work best. If you want to learn to make the cheese that I made in this video so that you have a reliable whey for ricotta, the one we make in the workshop can give you a leg up. This is very good when it is warm, fresh out of the whey, but I tend to just chill mine just because. But here, let's look at this. Cheers. Oh my, it's super creamy. It's almost like cream cheese, but just a little bit drier because it's not all that fat. Very smooth. It doesn't have curds. It's very creamy. And there's a little bit of a tang. It's more of a cultured flavor. It's not salty, but you can tell that the salt has elevated the flavor. It is not bland. I want you to see how creamy this is. Do you see how smooth that is? It's really, really satiny. It's like butter. You can just spread it directly on a cracker, and there you go. How delicious does that look? Well, let me tell you, it's delicious. What I like to do with my ricotta is lush it up. I like to add a little bit of cream, a little bit more salt. And there you have it. Just a little bit more oomph to this, and it is so good. So how long does ricotta keep? Since it's been salted while cooking, and maybe after if you chose to do that, it should last in the fridge for 1, probably even 2 weeks. You can freeze it and it will last, weeks in the freezer, but be aware that when you thaw it, it's going to be a little bit more crumbly and dry. It's still going to be absolutely wonderful in all kinds of baked dishes, but it's probably not the best for fresh eating. Now, if you're ready to start knocking out all sorts of delicious cheeses in your own kitchen, I break the whole process down in this video, so watch this next, and happy milk slinging!